On June 28, 1914, Bosnia witnessed an event that would soon shake the world. On that day, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary visited Sarajevo to inaugurate a hospital. However, his visit was anticipated by the Black Hand, a terrorist organization advocating for the unity of Slavic nations. Days earlier, Gavrilo Princip, a young Bosnian Serb teenager, along with two other nationalists, had prepared for an attack. That morning, Ferdinand's day started poorly. An initial assassination attempt with a bomb failed, though some members of his entourage were injured. Instead of retreating, Ferdinand insisted on visiting them at the hospital. On the way, his driver took a wrong turn and stopped right in front of a cafe where Gavrilo Princip was sitting. Seizing the opportunity, Princip swiftly shot Ferdinand, killing him. This incident triggered an ultimatum from Austria-Hungary to Serbia, leading to tensions among major nations. Allies on both sides became involved, and war was declared. World War I began, claiming millions of lives and reshaping the global political map. If Ferdinand's driver had taken a different route, perhaps history would have unfolded differently. If Ferdinand's driver had taken a different route, perhaps history would have unfolded differently. A similar event occurred during the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, US. President Woodrow Wilson received a letter from Ho Chi Minh, a young Vietnamese socialist, seeking discussions about his country's independence from France. The letter went ignored. Disappointed, Ho turned to the Soviet Union, studied Marxism, and became the communist leader of Vietnam. Later, Ho led resistance movements against France and became a central figure in the Vietnam War. Imagine if Wilson had taken the time to meet with him, perhaps the Vietnam War might never have happened. Another small decision came during World War I, when British soldier Henry Tandy spared the life of a wounded German soldier. That soldier was Adolf Hitler. 2 decades later, Hitler rose to power, led the Nazis, triggered World War II, and orchestrated the Holocaust. History also records that young Hitler aspired to become an artist, but was rejected by the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. If he had been accepted, the world might have known him as a painter rather than a dictator. During World War II, Kokura, Japan, was the intended target of the second atomic bomb after Hiroshima. However, cloudy weather and smoke from a previous attack caused the B-29 bomber pilot to divert to Nagasaki instead. This decision saved thousands of lives in Kokura, which later became known as the luckiest city. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear disaster. A Soviet submarine, B-59, armed with nuclear torpedoes, almost launched an attack on the US fleet. However, Vasily Arkhipov, one of the submarine's commanders, refused to authorize the launch. His decision saved the world from catastrophic nuclear war. Small actions have also had enormous impacts on modern politics. The case of Elian Gonzalez, a young Cuban boy returned to his homeland, influenced voter sentiment in Florida, helping George W. Bush secure the presidency. His subsequent decisions led to the Iraq War and the execution of Saddam Hussein. In the UK, a drunken altercation involving a member of parliament sparked a chain of events that eventually led to Brexit, reshaping the political direction of Europe. The butterfly effect teaches us that every action, no matter how small, can have significant consequences in the future. In an interconnected world, individual decisions can shape the course of human history. Simply put, a tiny change today could determine the direction of tomorrow's world. Sometimes, the smallest things we take for granted can have the biggest impact. Have you ever heard of the term butterfly effect? This phenomenon illustrates how small events, like the flapping of a butterfly's wings in one place, can trigger significant changes elsewhere. Although it might sound exaggerated, this concept is supported by research from Edward Lorenz, a mathematician and meteorologist. Lorenz discovered that tiny changes in the initial data of his weather models, such as rounding off numbers, could result in drastically different weather predictions. This finding changed how scientists perceive the world. It demonstrated that complex systems, like weather, don't always follow predictable linear patterns. The same principle applies to various aspects of life. For example, a minor decision by a political leader can influence the state of the world. In their book Good Omens, Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett humorously notes that events that truly change the world aren't always massive earthquakes or nuclear bombs, but often small decisions that we tend to overlook. The COVID-19 pandemic is a real-life example of the butterfly effect. A food market in China became the starting point of an event that, within months, reached nearly every city in the world. What began as a local health issue turned into a global crisis, disrupting economies, education, and many other aspects of life. This demonstrates just how interconnected our world is. However, there's a positive side to the butterfly effect. This phenomenon teaches us that every action, no matter how small, carries weight. We never know which seemingly insignificant decision might change someone's life or even the world. If small actions can have such a large impact, imagine what collective actions, taken together, can achieve.